made for each other. Welcome back to Movie Recap. Today, I'll share with you a romantic comedy film from 1939. Directed by John Cromwell, produced by David O. Selznick, and starring Carole Lombard, James Stewart, and Charles Coburn. Lombard and Stewart portray a couple who get married after only knowing each other for one day. The New York Times called the film thoroughly delightful. However, it lost $292,000 at the box office. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. The movie begins with a note that New York has a huge population, out of which the least important person is John Mason, an attorney. John is walking, holding the picture of his new wife. He goes to his office and the staff wish him a happy marriage. His fellow, Carter, tells him that Judge Doolittle shouldn't be happy about this, as he wanted to marry him to his daughter, Eunice. But John doesn't seem to be bothered. Judge Doolittle arrives and everybody hides in their cabins. He asks John about the mess, and he says that while he was at Boston for a case, he got married. Judge Doolittle tells him to follow him into his office. He asks John about the case. John tells him that when he saw Jane, his wife, for the first time, he just knew that she was the one and they immediately got married. Judge Doolittle says that it should come as a surprise to his daughter Eunice. The mailboy comes to deliver mail and hands over a letter from Jane to John. John tells Judge Doolittle that she loves to write to him even when she is with him. John asks for a leave for honeymoon. They're planning to go to Normandy for their honeymoon. Judge Doolittle doesn't approve. But with a little insisting, he grants a 2-week leave to John. John sends a note to his mother informing her of his arrival that afternoon. He mentions that he's bringing a girl with him. John introduces Jane to his mother. He reluctantly tells her that they're engaged, but his mother is shocked at them being engaged so soon. She says that she hopes they wouldn't get married for years. However, Jane tells her that they already are. The news comes to Mrs. Mason as a shock and she faints. Later, she wishes them a happy marriage. She says she will be fine to live alone. John asks her to live with them, but she refuses. Jane hugs John and says maybe they shouldn't have gotten married. Mrs. Mason comes to see them off for their honeymoon. She advises Jane to take good care of John. On board, they are so excited for their honeymoon. The bed is small, but they're excited for their first time away from America. They share a passionate kiss when they hear a door knock. Carter comes in and tells John that he needs to get off the ship because there is an important case he needs to attend to. John's continuation has backed off last minute and the hearing is on Monday. Jane becomes upset, but John tries to explain to her that the case is very important and winning the case can make John a partner at the firm. They get off the ship and Jane is sad as they wave goodbye to the cruise. Mrs. Mason, who refused to stay with them earlier, lives with them in their small apartment. John wins the case and they throw a dinner party to Judge Doolittle. Mrs. Mason disapproves of everything from table setting to appetizers. Because of Mrs. Mason's constant nagging, their maid resigns and tells Jane that she'd leave after the dinner is over. Mrs. Mason commends Eunice that she is a fine lady. When John arrives home, Jane asks him about Eunice and why he invited her. John casually says he never noticed her and she goes everywhere Judge Doolittle goes. They also had to invite Carter because Eunice is dating him. John is excited, as winning the case has increased his chances of becoming a partner at the firm. Coming out of the room, he says the granite puss will be here any minute, and Judge Doolittle hears him. However, John covers it up, saying they are serving roast beef dinner. The dinner is a mess. They run out of wine and cutlery is missing. The maid serves melted ice cream for dessert as their icebox isn't working. She hands over a note to Jane asking for her payment. Jane asks her to pass it to John. John goes to the kitchen and tries to convince her to stay until coffee, but she refuses. Meanwhile, Judge Doolittle announces that he has discussed the matter of taking a new junior partner with his daughter, as he always does. And Eunice has suggested Carter for the new partner. John is heartbroken, but raises a toast to Carter, but they're out of wine. At the doctor's office, Jane finds out she's pregnant. She borrows a pen, a paper, and a safety pin from the nurse and writes a letter to John. John is making his summation at the court hearing. The court is adjourned for making a verdict, and John finds Jane. Jane gives him the letter and becomes really happy at the good news. He wins the case, too. Jane gives birth and they have a boy. John pays the huge bill and they bring the baby back home. John thinks the baby is bored while Jane thinks he's beautiful. At home, Jane gives the baby his first bath. Mrs. Mason keeps criticizing everything. John is excited and wants to help, but Jane doesn't let him and tells him to warm up his milk. The baby cries for a long time. Mrs. Mason suggests that he has colic, but Jane says that he is only hungry. When John brings the bottle, he tries to hand it over to the baby. Jane tells John that he doesn't eat with his hands and holds him to feed him. Judge Doolittle deposits $10 in the bank for little Eddie. While Mrs. Mason thinks it's a very thoughtful gift, Jane isn't pleased with how little money he gave. Jane suggests they should move the baby to another room as the baby keeps John up all night. The maid tells Jane that she was hired for cooking only, not changing the baby. Jane gets upset and fires her. John looks at the baby and calls everyone to see that he is smiling at him. His mother ironically says, "It's gas." John returns depressed from his reunion. Jane is sleeping on the sofa in the living room and wakes up when John comes. She asks how the reunion was, but John is gloomy about how all his mates have achieved so much in life. He expresses how he wishes to be able to afford a nice apartment for his family. Jane gives him leftover dinner and encourages him to demand a raise as he is a superb lawyer and the firm would not want to lose him. He practices what to say to Judge Doolittle. He is called by the judge into his office and told that the depression is causing them to cut everyone's pay. Still, he tries to talk about the pay raise, but Judge Doolittle's hearing problem makes it even harder, and he is forced to accept it and leaves disheartened. He comes home drunk and noisily enters the house. Jane wakes up and goes to see him. He tells her that he is fine and goes to the washroom, hurls his clothing all around and gargles loudly. Jane asks if he is okay because he's sleeping with his shoes on. He gets up to take his shoes off, but she helps him take them off. She tells John that she saw Judge Doolittle after he talked to him. She apologizes to him for making him do what he didn't want to do. He tells her not to apologize and they get emotional and embrace. Unpaid bills start to pile up and Jane has to get rid of a lovely maid. Jane tells her that she wouldn't ever let her go, but their budget won't allow them to have a maid anymore. On New Year's Eve, 1938-39, John and Jane await Carter, who has come to pick them up for his New Year's party. He doesn't show up even after 3 hours of the promised time. Mrs. Mason has flu and blames that she caught it from the baby. Jane reassures John that the baby just has sniffles and there's nothing to worry about. Their ex-maid brings chicken dinner. When Jane goes to warm it up, Mrs. Mason criticizes Jane's cooking. Jane tries to swallow it like she always has, but then she blurts out. She tells Mrs. Mason that she dislikes her since the beginning just because she wanted John to marry Eunice. Both of them go to their rooms. John becomes discouraged by his unpaid bills and by the tension between Jane and his mother and rushes out. Jane follows him. At a pub, John tells Jane that she should go ahead with her life. He even says that maybe they shouldn't have had the baby. They get up to dance, and after the New Year countdown, they see everyone kissing. Jane leaves, crying. John sits back at his table, and a group of ladies have fun with him. Jane returns back and takes him home. When they arrive, the baby is rushed to the hospital with pneumonia. The doctor tells John that the baby will die within hours unless a serum is delivered. John requests the doctor not to tell Jane. The doctor calls all the pharmacies in the city, but no one has it. Finally, they find it at a pharmacy in Salt Lake City. John goes to Doolittle, and despite his servant's warnings, he wakes him up and tells him about the grave situation and that he needs $5,000 to travel and bring the serum. However, due to the extreme weather conditions, all flights have been canceled. Doolittle calls a private jet owner to deliver the serum and promises him $5,000 as a reward, but with a storm raging and with a wife and children to consider, the pilot refuses to fly. John pleads over the telephone, and the pilot's unmarried friend takes the job for the money. Jane sees the oxygen tanks and learns that the baby's condition is worsening. Mrs. Mason gives heart to Jane and tells her that she wasn't always a snob when she had someone to share everything with. She gives Jane courage that no matter what happens, John and Jane will always be together. A nun encourages Jane to go to church, and Jane prays to the Lord for the recovery of her boy. The new pilot almost crashes in the mountains. News spread, and despite efforts all over the city, the plane is nowhere to be found. The plane's engine catches fire a short distance from New York. He jumps off the plane with a parachute. The pilot is also injured and knocked unconscious after jumping from the plane and parachuting to safety, but he crawls to a nearby farmhouse after he comes to. The farmer sees the box containing the serum and telephones the hospital. The baby is saved, and John wishes Jane a happy new year. A few months later, John is made partner at the law firm, and he suggests that the firm needs to renew their methods. Jane interrupts the meeting with their son. She tells everyone that he has said his first words. Everyone gathers around him and asks him to say "Daddy," and he says "Mama." Great storyline and a superb cast and acting. Thanks for watching. Like the video and drop your suggestions in the comments. Subscribe for more.